I want to start today's episode with a question. If you had a stable degree, a safe career path, a predictable income, would you still choose uncertainty? Would you still choose art? Today's guest did. She has a BSc, a master's diploma in software engineering. She could have stayed in structure. Instead, she chose ink. She chose clay. She chose 18 years of building something most people call just a hobby. And here's what that hobby became. Her calligraphy was featured at the Jixi World Calligraphy Exhibition in South Korea. She conducted a pottery workshop at Rashtrapati Bhavan and showcased her work to the President of India. She was listed among the top 50 calligraphers by Art Affairs. She built it into a brand, a studio, a community, a life. Tanvi Saraya, welcome to Unapologetic Me, and I am so excited because this being the month of March, I couldn't have asked for a better guest.
Thank you so much, Ekta. And thank you so much for inviting at this podcast. And I'm really, really excited to get into this. Yeah.
Perfect. Let's get started. Um, I want to go back before the exhibitions, before the studio, to you as a young girl. As a child, were you observant, quiet, curious? What kind of a girl were you?
As a child, I was honestly the mix of it. I was, you would say, I was quite, when I was in a huge crowd,
Hmm.
and, I generally prefer to observe. But I
Hmm.
was very curious when something comes of my interest, basically. So I was a mix of it. Yeah.
Um, did you naturally lean towards art or did it grow on you?
I think art was always the part of me since I was a child. But back that time, I never realized how deeply it was a part of me. So
Hmm.
it grows gradually.
So, usually we figure out our passions through things we've been exposed to or how we've been brought up at home. Because everyone has a rub of how you've been brought up at home through your parents, siblings, and everyone. So, I want to know, was creativity engaged at home or was education the primary focus?
I would say the education was the primary focus at that moment. But I was never discouraged about my creativity. I keep creating small things, and my parents have always encouraged me about that. So the focus was primarily on the education, but both the things were parallelly going.
Okay. Um, since you mentioned that education was the top focus, did you imagine a conventional career for yourself?
Honestly, we were living in a small city and we have no wider choices at that time.
Hmm.
And I was always lean toward technology also. So I chose to get into the professional course at that time. And with less of exposure, I was not I didn't know about how art will take a place. So yeah, so that was the safest choice at that time. Yeah.
Okay. Um, all right. When you look back now, what traits from your younger self are still with you?
Mm, I think creativity is still with me, and it's a longer it's like a huge part of me, because even when I was doing my diploma in software engineering, we have to build the like coding and all we have to do, and we have to design the websites also. So creativity was somewhere the part of that thing also.
Hmm. The reason I was asking because sometimes we have the signs. It's just that we don't know how they'll show up in us and at
Mhm.
what point in time they'll become so clear to us. Um, Now touching back on your education journey, you pursued a BSc and then a master's diploma in software engineering. What was your mindset at that stage?
So that was something I just now mentioned, that technology always fascinates me
Hmm.
till date. So that time when I started pursuing the diploma in software engineering, those things always attracted me, and I was thoroughly enjoying that as well. I never questioned myself that is like, uh, am I going on the right path or not? But I really, really enjoyed that also.
Now, so to talk about something that interests you so much, and then you start developing a passion for another career or another field that you'll make a career out of this. At that point, did art feel like a side interest or something deeper? How was it emerging in you?
Art was always a part of me, but I have never seen art as a full-time career back then.
Hmm.
Uh, so I was happy with what I was doing. So it grows side by side, basically.
And was there ever a moment during your degree when you questioned if this was your path?
No,
So
never,
you,
because I was thoroughly enjoying that.
all right. If someone had told you then that you would at some point in time become a full time artist, would have you believed them at that point in time?
Never.
I mean, it's
Never,
interesting
because
how just life shapes up differently, right?
yeah, and you never know how your career path goes beyond like what you have imagined, the way
Yeah.
you have imagined. So I was thoroughly enjoying that part of my life as well, and I still believe that that part has helped me a lot in today's time as well. It's still helping me. Yeah.
Perfect. You know, there's always a moment in everyone's life where logic and instinct they don't really agree, and you largely go with what your heart says because the passion is so strong. Now, what I want to take you into the next segment is actually the shift which happened from your career in technology to now towards art. Um, we're trying to explore your mindset here. When did you seriously consider choosing art professionally?
Okay, so basically, my when my kid was just 2 years old, so I placed her in a play school, and
Hmm.
they were doing some art activities with her, and that clicked me that this is something which I also do enjoy doing it. At that time, I was keeping my this profession at hold because my kid was very small. So I thought that better let's explore this side also, and I announced a summer camp at that time uh,
Okay.
for the children of her age, basically her friends and all. So I started with one kid at that time, and I ended with 25 kids in that session as well itself. So that was the starting point, which clicked me that oh, this is also I can do, and this is also people like about me. Like this is
Yeah.
yeah
Um, so we understood the process. Like you
yeah
organize a summer camp.
yeah.
What I'm trying to now understand is did you plan it through? Did you plan it with an intent to exploring if this could be a possibility, or was it just making the most of the time that you had at that point in time?
Uh, it started with just a hobby, I would
Hmm.
say.
Hmm.
And then gradually I get I started I when I get into it, uh, I feel that this is also my calling. Like
Hmm.
uh, the way I was enjoying the other part of my education, I was similarly enjoying this, or maybe much more. So
Hmm.
that was a gradual shift. It happened gradually. I would not say that it happened in the overnight. It happened gradually, but yes, I realized that this is my calling. Yeah.
You know, the next thing that I'm going to ask is something which I feel is very practical. And a lot of people, when they're making a switch from the careers, they don't think about it. And even if they don't, it's always there. Like it's always existing, which is to think about money. So when you were making a switch or you were thinking about pursuing art or making a career out of it, did money scare you at that point in time? What was the thought process behind leaving secured career, so to say, to now venturing into something which is kind of like a budding field and figuring out and dealing with the insecurities that come with it? How about the financial part?
So honestly, money never really scared me.
Okay.
So because I switched the. It's not that I switched the career intentionally. It just
Hmm.
happened, and
Hmm.
when I started this career, I was not. It was not driven with the financial goals. Basically, in starting, it was not like I have to think about how will I earn money out of it. It was purely to satisfy my creative soul. I started it with that intention. So yeah, so money was not a consideration at that point of time.
Hmm. Interesting. So, in the early days when you began, how were you earning? Workshops, custom orders, was it stable? I'm asking this because I feel like when a lot of females or any gender who's going to be listening to this, people want to make a switch. And if they want to plan from a stable to a career which kind of opens up a lot of avenues, has is probably their passionate domain, how would they choose to figure out the course of action and how should they plan it? So talking about you in your early days, how were you earning? Was it through workshops, custom orders? How was it?
So basically, when you switch the career, you have to start small.
Hmm.
Right. So initially I started with the summer camp, as I said.
Hmm.
And then for I think 1 or 2 years, I only stick to the summer camps. And then gradually I start taking small workshops and some regular classes also. So,
Hmm.
this is what the flow was initially. And
Yeah.
then start feeling confident once you start getting output out of all these things.
Yeah.
You start exploring more about it then.
Yeah, and eventually when you're able to develop it into a brand, and when it picks up, then you have a lot of other opportunities
Yes.
and other avenues.
Yeah, yeah. People
And
also start recognizing you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've seen your following on Instagram. It's pretty legit. Okay, tell us, was there ever a point in time when you compared your income that you could have earned in software engineering to now in this career?
See, the thought do cross your minds several times, but
Okay.
that the thought was not that strong, uh, which get me back to what I'm doing right now. So it was like you do compare like it because when you see others doing good in those fields, you feel like, yeah, if I would have keep on doing that, uh,
Yeah.
maybe so I would be earning little more or something like that. But then this part was so strong, I think so. It never overpowered that feeling.
All right. Because this was actually my follow-up question. Did that comparison affect your confidence?
Yeah.
And I think you very nicely answered. So, very good. Was there ever a pressure, internal or external, to go back to a safer profession? We did discuss about that the thought really crossed your mind.
Mhm.
Um, but did you ever, at any point in time, thought, should I still go back? Or did you feel it very strongly? Let me just tell you what happened in my case. I don't know if we draw the parallels here. I come from a very strong financial background, and then I made a career out in marketing. But then eventually, I think I had this hunch that I want to get into building a podcast because I love storytelling, and I think one can learn a lot from others' experiences, and you should not be going through so many years if you can benefit from what people have learned. And so this was my cue of changing my career. So to answer it, have I thought about? I think to your point, the it does cross your mind, but because you've stayed and because of every decision that you've made towards a career or the life that you're creating, I think it just strengthens. This is what happened in my case, and then
Absolutely.
now I at this point in time I feel like I don't think any career would have given me so much satisfaction and all the different roles that I've done before. So I think that kind of works in terms of the inner self belief that starts compounding over a period of time. So what do you feel about it?
So, the same way you as telling me about yourself, when you convert your passion into a profession,
Hmm.
it gives you so much joy, it gives you so much satisfaction, which doesn't allow you to see back. And
Hmm.
that satisfaction is something which is so loud in yourself that you don't feel like uh, you don't have a doubt in your mind because of that. And same happens in my case also. That was my conscious decision to get into this career, and uh, and that is why I never felt that maybe I could have gone back because I was enjoying this thoroughly.
We're going to be touching the last question on the money part. And I really want to know, and I'm asking this because a lot of women listening are stuck in this exact moment. If a woman is thinking, art doesn't pay and I can't risk it, what would you tell her?
The fear is valid. I would not say that it's a very, very valid fear, which anybody who gets into the art field must be thinking, how will I make money out of it? Because getting into an art field is a very, very gradual process. If
Hmm.
somebody has done engineering or medical or any such profession, they'll start earning as soon as they go out of the colleges and everything, right? But art is never like this. It grows gradually. You
Hmm.
have to make your place in this industry. You have to be very, very consistent.
Hmm.
You can't lose in between. And if that you are ready to do that, you should get into it. And definitely, it's not a very high paying job in the start.
Hmm.
But as soon as people start recognizing you, people start knowing about your passion, that passion should be there. Without passion, this cannot grow.
All right. Now, since we've spoken about what it takes, and what is the kind of a mindset you should have when you're getting into art and what it really requires perseverance, now let's understand the mindset and the skills which are required to develop expertise in this field. Let's talk about discipline behind the beauty. You've been practicing pottery for 18 years.
Yeah.
What kept you consistent in it?
So in pottery, there is a strong connection which you feel between you and your and the clay, right? As soon as you touch the clay, there is something very magical which happens. It's very meditative.
Hmm.
So if when you s- develop something out of a clay, it's like giving a birth to a new child. It's completely a lump which you are holding before, and then it suddenly change into something different, very meaningful things. Uh, as I create almost 100 Ganeshas, much more than that every year with clay during Ganesh
Wow.
Chaturthi. So I've uh, not only I feel that, all the participants who join my workshops also feel that it's something so beautiful which happens inside you when you create something out of just a lump of a clay. So that feeling is very magical, and it uh, it gives you immense satisfaction.
So tell us, what is the difference between someone who just enjoys art versus someone who masters it?
Uh, so enjoying art is just an emotion, right? But mastering it is a big commitment, I would say.
Hmm.
Uh, while mastering certain art form or something, you have to keep repeating those things. You will fail. You have to again do that. So mastering is requires a lot of dedication. And
Hmm.
if it is just an like if it is just an I would say if it's just an emotion, then it will not go long. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it requires a lot of commitment along with the passion, emotion.
Okay, we spoke about pottery. Now let's bring your focus to calligraphy. In
Mhm.
calligraphy, you've mastered multiple scripts across languages. Question is, why go that deep?
I started calligraphy just because I was very excited to see the way the scripts are written. I have seen the older scripts in some of the exhibitions, which
Hmm.
clicked me, and I thought that I should also start learning this. So I
Okay.
started learning this with very, very uh, nominal, like just a thought of learning something new. And as soon as I get into it, uh, the the art itself pull you inside, basically.
Oh, how
So,
nice.
and calligraphy is much more deeper than just the beautiful handwriting,
Hmm.
because it is associated with the history, the regional things, the culture. Every scripts which you study is somewhere related to the culture of that place. Each script has a different emotion. Some scripts are very, very delicate. Some strings are very strong. So you can
Hmm.
uh, express yourself, your emotion with the different scripts you learn or different scripts you write. So uh, the people who enjoy calligraphy could relate with me a little better, because uh, it just pull you inside.
Hmm. All right, perfect. Tell us, when your work was featured in the Jigsaw World Calligraphy Exhibition in South Korea. Firstly, congratulations. That is a huge deal. What did that mean to you personally?
So it was quite it was a mixed feeling at that time, because when I was started creating the art piece for that exhibition,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was the first time I create a big piece, that big piece, and I was not sure whether I will be able to deliver my emotion, what I am feeling about creating that piece. So that was a big challenge for me, and but I like challenges, I think, and that is why I take up that call to get into that thing.
So you told us about the big piece that you were building. Tell us about the entire experience of when you got the chance to create something like that, and how did you feel about your work beside other renowned artists in the book? What was that feeling?
So yeah, that was very validating, I think, because
Hmm.
uh, at every point of time, especially in such fields, you need some validation. And
Yeah.
when you were featured behind 50 top calligraphers, you feel that, yeah, somewhere you have reached that stage where you can say that, yeah, I know this art form, I have mastered this art form. So, honestly, that was very validating. Yeah, that is a perfect word I would say about it.
Okay. Okay, tell us about conducting a workshop at Rashtrapati Bhavan and showcasing your work to the President of India. Did that feel surreal or you actually earned it?
So I would say that was the most beautiful opportunity I've ever got.
Yeah.
Uh,
What was running in your heart at that time? What were you feeling? Did you ever, probably you would have felt like all of those running thoughts in your head about software engineering, all of that has gone now. I know
no,
where I am.
I have that thought never crossed my mind at that particular moment. But yes, when it's very very proud moment for myself. I was actually proud of myself, because when you enter that premise, that huge space where
Yeah,
not everybody get in, and you were there because of your skill, because of your work, and that gives you so much of satisfaction,
yeah,
pride for yourself, because and that opportunity was huge, because I have to display my work in front of Rashtrapati also. So
yeah.
that was an opportunity of a lifetime, I would say, and that happened because people have recognized my work, and yes, that truly was like amazing.
Now, I want you to take a deep breath because the next question I want to ask is everything that you felt, Tanvi, all of those accomplishments, South Korea, President of India being recognized by him, getting into the rooms where the access is limited to just few celebrated people, that is a huge deal. What mindset do you think allowed you to get to rooms like this?
I think
It's
this
not
was,
an ordinary choice you made, right?
yeah.
You've been telling us how one needs to think about art and how it's a slow, gradual process for you to get to a level where you feel that level, that sense of validation coming up. But there has to be a mindset work that you would have done knowingly, unknowingly. So if someone's listening, how can they benefit from your experience?
Well, I would say, and I strongly believe that whatever you do, you have to be very, very consistent in that. So, consistency is the basic key of going forward for any business or anything you do in your life. Uh, there was a time when I was new to the Instagram, and
Hmm.
I have decided that I will post every single day, because
Hmm.
these whatever follows you are showing, they are all organic. I have never paid for it. So I have decided that I'll post every single day. So that is
Okay.
a commitment to myself. And
Hmm.
even if I am traveling somewhere,
Yeah.
I uh, I created a post that, for example, I'm traveling for 4 days. So I create four posts, and I then during traveling I keep posting it day by day. So that was the huge commitment. And for almost 2 years I did that. So that only paid off to me. And right now, if I see, Instagram is a huge, huge platform where I'm getting work from. So I would say consistency is the key, and you have to be regular.
Committed.
Yeah, you have
Yeah,
to be regular and committed to whatever you are doing. Definitely, you
perfect.
will be paid off.
100%. All right, this was beautiful. Two C's that one must learn: consistency and commitment.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Okay, art is one thing, running a studio is another. We're now taking you to the segment of entrepreneurship and the brand vision that you hold for your studio. So, when you started indulging art studio, did you see yourself as an entrepreneur? Was there ever a vision when you got into art?
I would not say myself as an entrepreneur even now.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
because when I started my studio, the pure intention was to create a space where the participants who are coming in should feel like home. They should feel the sense of satisfaction. They should feel that this is a joyful place.
Hmm.
So even now, if I see myself as an entrepreneur, I would, um I myself deny to be like that. And if I feel like if I'll not put in my whole heart and soul into a place, and that is very like emotional to me,
Hmm.
because as soon as you step into the world where you see yourself as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
I think the things change.
Hmm.
I don't say that you have to, because you are running a studio, there are a lot of expenses attached to it. So you have to think about that as well, that part as well. But the major part of me is still an artist, and I think I will keep myself like that only. And that is why I'm able to deliver what I am delivering right now.
Perfect. That's very nicely said. Yeah. Because when you get into the mindset of running it like a business, you
Yeah,
lose the joy, which is the prime reason why you
absolutely.
started, and you
Yeah,
lose the artist in you because then
yeah,
it's only business and
definitely.
thinking of it making money, and you don't want to do that because
Yeah,
what started as an interest in a passion area, it'll be overtaken by something else. All
absolutely.
right, you spoke about that you want people who are coming and attending to have an experience, right?
Yeah.
So I want to know some of the testimonials or some of the instances that you can share with us. What has been the experience of the people who've taken your courses? What do they usually walk in with? And what is the feeling when they're walking out? If someone shared instances with
No,
you.
so there are many, many instances, and
Let's go.
yeah. So when the people, so I have a program called Art Escape in the morning, which runs in the morning for the mothers or the fathers who I want to come and rediscover themselves, I would say. So
Okay.
people come with a mindset, oh, I don't know even how to draw a line. But
Hmm.
if they've stepped into that space, that means there is some curiosity
Yeah.
in their heart somewhere that I
Yeah.
want to learn such things. So people have already have that in themselves. I just want to uh, take that creative side out of themselves. So when people come, they say that they are very new to it. They
Hmm.
don't know anything, but gradually they are only doing the things
Hmm.
on themselves. I am just there to
Yeah.
assist them. But I always say that you are doing it yourself. I'm not helping you in any ways. That is already there inside you.
Yeah. It's just that Tanvi, sometimes we feel like you would have that thing, but you want somebody to nudge you and say that you can do it, you can do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
And
like you said, very rightfully said, that the fact that they've come to you
yeah.
shows that they want to bring it out.
Yeah.
But it's just that being in your presence makes it a lot more easier, and they know that somebody's an expert, so they would bring out the best in them.
And
At least nudge
it
them.
gives them a validation that whatever they are doing, they are going on the right path, and they are doing okay with whatever they have
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
of. And uh,
Like that's safe space for
yeah,
them
yeah.
to
Yeah,
unleash
and
whatever.
nobody is judging them, right?
Yes, that's
So,
the best part.
yeah, because everybody who is there are in the same boat,
Yeah.
and nobody is judging them. Whether you're doing something wrong or you have created something odd or something like, nobody is judging you. So that gives them more
Openness.
openness. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people are doing such huge variety of work over there in my studio. Some are doing the calligraphy, some are doing, because calligraphy, I have one female coming in my studio whose son was getting married, and
Okay.
she said that. I just want to learn this form of art or calligraphy so that I develop patience inside me. So,
Oh wow.
so
Okay, see, this is the side nobody knew. People have seen calligraphy as, you get those cards,
she is such a
invitations.
successful female in her career and everything. She has achieved whatever one can achieve. And then she took a break to understand this part of her identity, that I want to be a patient. I want to be patient with myself. So I get to uh, indulge with so many people who are in a different fields, and I also learn so much from them.
Yeah.
It's such a
Beautiful.
beautiful environment over there that everybody is. We talk a lot while doing the things, so you
Yeah.
got to learn so many things from them as well.
I think this is so beautiful. Frankly, I never looked at calligraphy as a way of bringing the patience in you, but this is such a good domain. And even I myself am learning so much by just whatever discussion that we're having right now. All right, tell us, for somebody who's now thinking on the similar lines, listening to you, how did they start or how did they structure initial bit of the pricing for their work? How did you think about pricing your work in the beginning if they can learn from you? You did
Hmm.
mention about workshops, but if you can simplify, how did that work?
Okay, so I would say initially when I start taking the commission work and client works,
Hmm.
I rated myself quite low.
Okay.
And that was a mistake I had done initially, because now I would not say that is a mistake, but then you don't value your work, your time, your efforts you have put in for years in that art form, for mastering that art form. So you
Yeah.
have to evaluate yourself on all those parameters. Basically, the time you are giving, the efforts you are doing for that, and the time you have invested back then to master
Yeah.
that art form.
So
So
I'm going to interject, Tanvi, because this is such a great point that you mentioned. Whoever starts, it's also the environment and sometimes your own inner calling that says that price as low, so you get the people and you get the work,
exactly,
right? We like you mentioned, and then you realize later that you should have priced yourself at the level of the talent and the hard work that you were putting.
yeah.
Why? So somebody who starts, how do they convince themselves that you should not be pricing yourself low to get people in, rather put yourself at the level where it's a justified number, and even in the opposite person's eyes you can say the value that you bring? How should they calm their inner voice? Tell us that.
So basically, first of all, when you are into some industry, you have to read the industry norms as well. You have
Hmm.
to see how other people are working, how
Hmm.
they are charging their things. So a rough idea comes from there as well.
Okay.
And then you have to value yourself a lot.
Hmm.
So basically, as I say, you have to evaluate all the parameters which is there, which suppose, for example, somebody comes to you and say that you have to write a letter of on a A4 size, right?
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
are less of letters on the A4 size than if somebody gives you a scroll, right?
Okay.
So you have to value yourself at that point of time, that how much efforts you are, how much more efforts you are putting in to write a scroll instead of a A4 size paper. So you have to value your work according to that. So the time you are investing, the material cost you are investing into that, and your efforts, everything counts. So you
Hmm.
plus the market study, so you have to
Got it.
yeah.
Tell us, did you ever, initial bit, now that you have a brand, so this question is out of the window, but initially, or when you were in the start,
Mm.
did you ever struggle with charging for creativity or finding people who could reach out to you looking for work? What was the thought process at that point in time?
I think every artist struggle on the pricing. This is a very common thing in our field. Every
Okay.
artist struggle for that,
Okay.
because when you are a beginner, when you are settled, nobody asks you twice.
Yeah.
But when you are beginner, people, because people don't understand, they just see the output, and they feel that इसमें इतना भी कुछ नहीं है, right?
Huh.
See,
Correct.
they say कि so you have to, at that time, at that point of time, you have to convince that. convince the client that this is the amount of time which will go in.
Hmm.
For example, in calligraphy, sometimes you can write just on the spot, and sometimes you have to create multiple drafts.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
is the efforts which goes in. It's not just the final output which you are seeing. We have to develop multiple drafts before it, and
Yeah.
every draft takes time. So you have to value everything according to that.
Perfect. Let me ask this question. I mean, you've already given me the answer to this, but let me also ask you initially, like you said, when for every artist, it takes time.
Yeah,
So, and one has to create opportunities for themselves.
yeah,
People are not coming to you, but you have to create, like you said, even when you were traveling, you would do a lot of posts early on, you would keep them intact, and then so that whether you're able to shoot that day or not, but you have the content ready and then you can put it out there on social media. How did you create opportunities for yourself other than being showing the presence on social media, but then just making your work seen? Were there
yeah.
certain things that people can learn from you?
So basically, I would say every art form or every thing has a community. If you're
Hmm.
a photographer, there is a different community developed. If you're a calligrapher, there is a different community developed. So likewise in the pottery field also. So you have to get into that community to get some recognition for yourself.
Beautiful.
There are different ways of doing it. Like I said, you have to get into that community through social media. That is one way. But apart from it, there are always some gatherings or some events happening in those fields. You have to attend all those things. Initially, I attended almost every event happening around calligraphy and pottery. And you have to get in, you have to see how people are expressing themselves over those platforms. And you have to gradually push yourself to be seen, basically.
Yeah,
And you
this
have
is
to and gradually, for the corporates, I would say you have to pitch in, you have to work harder on your scripts, on your presentations, and you have to pitch in. Uh,
hmm,
and initially, maybe you will not get the good response, but gradually, when your work speaks, the people will recognize you.
perfect. This was such an impromptu in the conversation moment, but I'm just glad that I asked, and I think it'll benefit a lot of people.
Mm.
All right, tell us, how do you balance artistic integrity with the business growth? Because ultimately, it's a brand. You also got to make money, but
Yeah.
then how do you balance both the traits together?
So I would not rate one over the other.
Okay,
Both of them should go hand in hand, I
perfect.
would say. If you talk about the artistic integrity, it's like doing your best in calligraphy, uh, giving your full heart and soul when you're teaching, and you should you should uh, basically go in depth when you are taking the workshops, so that the people who are taking the workshops from you should feel benefited after the workshop. They should feel happy that they came, right? So
Hmm.
this is the artistic integrity. But when we come to growth, I think if you are true to your work, the growth will
Yeah.
follow. And also, one major point I would like to cover is like, if the opportunity doesn't align with the core values which you are
Yeah.
doing, you should learn to say no as well.
Oh, this is good because initially you're like, do I even have the opportunity of saying no?
Yeah.
But
So initially, you
good
feel
point.
so fearful, like you're very fearful in saying no. But then I think if it doesn't match to your values or your core principles, you should
Yeah.
say, because
All right.
that is not taking you anywhere then.
Hmm. I mean, if it doesn't, if your inner voice doesn't connect with it, then what's the point?
Yeah.
But then to say that I don't want to take it because I don't feel aligned with it, that in itself is a big thing.
That's a big thing, and that comes only with an experience. And I would say it's very difficult to do it in the beginning, but
Yeah.
gradually, when you are at a certain stage, maybe you are able to do it more
Oh,
efficiently.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Tanvi. Tell us, so through our research and sitting with you, we got to learn that you teach traditional art forms like Madhubani, Kerala murals, and Pattachitra. What is it about tradition that you feel so invested in?
So all these art forms are the Indian art forms, which has been people are doing it from years,
Hmm.
and all these art forms carry a lot of age-old stories.
Hmm.
So if in Madhubani or in Pattachitra or whatever, if you are creating a panel, if you see there is a lot of, even in single panel there is a lot of things which has been depicted. Maybe it is connected with mythology, or maybe it is connected with the religion or the culture of that place. So if you will stop teaching it, or if you will stop mm, uh, if you will, this scripts lose their identity. So it's not just
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
losing the identity, we are losing the century old stories which are connected to that culture. So that is why we have to enhance this in today's world, so that the old culture, the old things still remain with us in the younger generations.
Perfect. All right, bringing the businesswoman back in you, where do you see your brand indulging art studio 5 years from now?
Mm, I would say I want a more, I would see art as a structure,
Okay.
like the way all other subjects are taught in the school, even the
Hmm.
art should be taught in a very structured way, uh, which is still lagging in our education system, I would say.
Hmm.
Schooling, it is like that. Uh, it is so every subject has a structure, every subject has a syllabus year on year. But
Yeah.
we in art we don't have like that. So I
Hmm.
want my studio to be a to give something in a way, give something in a very structured way. Over.
Very nice. I hope teachers are listening. And they'll be able to actually create it in a way where then students can think of a career early on.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
That'd be amazing if that starts happening in India. Now, bringing your focus on marriage, motherhood, and time, let's talk about the part that no one romanticizes, which is striking up a balance. All right, you're married, you're a mother, and you run a studio. How do you manage your time? Very important.
It's like giving priority to different things every single day. Every single day is a different day for you. So someday
Intentionally.
you someday you have to give priority to your motherhood. Someday you have to give priority to your house, and someday you have to be really, really focused on your work. So
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
single day is a different day, and I would say that uh, if you have a supportive people around you, that is possible.
Yeah, all right. Do you feel like motherhood has changed the way you think about art or has changed your creativity somehow?
It has actually enhanced my creativity.
All right, beautiful. That's the word we were going for, but I wanted to hear from you.
It has actually enhanced my creativity. My children are my greatest support. Every single thing which I make, they are the biggest cheerleaders for me. And when I say that, Mama, we are proud of you, that is all you want to hear from anybody.
Talking about your children, how has your child learned by watching you build something of your own? Give us any instance because we keep hearing, right? Mothers have to be the strong nudge because children are watching.
Yeah.
Anything that you've observed?
So I would say they have learned how passion can be a profession,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
they have learned that how consistency is a big part of anything you do. So these two things I would say that they have taken from me, and my elder one is pursuing her. She's a product designer. She's an industrial designer now,
Okay.
and she's working much better than me, I think. And initially, it started with she has seen me in the formal years, and she has been doing so many things with me, around me, and I think she is much better than me now at this point of time, I think.
I can only feel like, as a mother, how much of a joy and proud you must be feeling,
Absolutely.
right? Because these are the years, so much of so much of your own self goes into bringing up your children, and then when you see them doing so well for themselves, you feel so satisfied. and you feel proud?
Absolutely. Such a matter of pride when she get into her first job, when she get appreciation from so many other things. So it's such a huge matter of pride. Yeah.
Okay, Tanvi, I'm going to bring about the topic of which I absolutely love, which is on identity, women, and empowerment.
Mm.
Through a couple of your answers, I kind of felt like you feel creativity is also a tool for women empowerment. Tell me if I'm thinking it right, and what are your thoughts around it?
Definitely. If you talk about women empowerment, uh, I have talked it about earlier also in an interview which I have given on FM radio. So, see, in today's world, when our female got married,
Yeah.
the everything change around her, and she has to get into the way that family behaves, the family runs. So, in that process, somewhere they lose their own identity. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I would say that uh, every female has something in them which is more powerful, which maybe they have not uh, explored about themselves. So,
Mm.
apart from doing and satisfying everybody around and running the house and everything, all that, you should focus on what are your core strengths and take out that uh, from yourself and create your own identity. Matlab, you should be known by what you are. You
Yeah.
should be
That
known
is
by
so
what
deep.
you should be known by like uh, she is the one who runs that or she is the one
Yeah.
who do that. So that I think is a very very necessary thing for every female out.
Hmm. Now, tell me, do you ever see that women have this thing of underestimating their creative potential?
Definitely.
Tell
Well,
me more about it. Like, why do I feel like that? And but also, you have the older child is a daughter, and you have now she's learning that she can make a career out of her passion. So even though you saw what you've seen, but you've molded her into a rather grounded and she can figure out opportunities for herself. So that's a change, right? That's a change we're bringing.
so, if I talk about my elder one, so I would say she was a very bright student. She got a good percentage in her boards exams and everything. Instead, she chose humanities over science at that time, and that was the biggest challenge. Oh, you got 98% in your board exams, and still you are choosing humanities.
Yeah.
So that was a question which got raised in my family as well. But then I think it was she who chose that maybe I will not earn the way the engineers earn or
Mhm.
something like that, but I will do something from my passion, from my heart. And she was so confident about that will definitely turn into a whole soul income based thing.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
if I could say that if I could bring that in my child, so I would like to spread this word among all the females that you have something in yourself, and it's just that you have to recognize what you are meant for. And there is much more than you have to definitely balance everything around, but there is much more than what you are doing just being at home. So
Hmm.
yeah, so you have to recognize yourself first. Nobody will come and say you that this is what you are doing.
So
So this is not your thing.
yeah, give some time, sit with yourself, figure out what you feel very strongly about, and then
Absolutely.
enhance it.
Yes, and it's a gradual process, I would say. This that doesn't happen overnight. It is a
Yeah,
gradual process, but then everybody should do it. I
yeah. And what do you think? Do you think financial independence changes a woman's confidence?
definitely a lot because it just don't change your lifestyle, but
Yeah.
it change how you look yourself,
Hmm.
how you
That's true.
sit and stand in your society, how
Hmm.
you talk with the people.
Yeah.
So it is not about the money which comes in when you are financially independent. It's about your uh, existence. It is about your uh, personality.
Hmm.
Everything change when you are financially independent. It's a
Perfect. Tanvi?
confidence which reflects in you when you talk to the people, when you go in any
Yeah.
gathering, everywhere.
Yeah. It becomes so apparent and you can actually see
Yeah, yeah,
how
definitely.
good you feel about yourself, and then that gets reflected.
That's absolutely.
Okay. What advice would you give to a woman who feels it's too late to start now?
It's never too late. There is nothing like too late. I
Hmm.
would give an example like I have my students of age 70 to 80 years. They are
Hmm.
learning calligraphy now.
Wow.
I
Okay.
have a whole batch where there are three male members who are learning calligraphy because they have always wanted to this in the earlier years. Uh, I have one. Now she is no more, but I have a student who was 75 years old when she started learning calligraphy uh, because she wanted to bring some purpose to the life which is still there in her hands. She was
Wow.
not able to walk. She was just wanted to sit. She was only able to sit and do something. So she got into calligraphy. I have taught her almost 3 or 4 scripts, and she get into the community. She was so famous in the community. So that give her purpose of life
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
that age also. So there is no age to learning new things. I would say uh, you can learn anytime.
All right. Then I want to ask you something different now, something that makes you reflect on your journey. Has this thought ever run your mind that maybe, just maybe, I could have started earlier?
I think no, I didn't have that thought ever because the at that time I was very close to technology and I was enjoying that phase of my life also. And every phase has something to teach you,
Yeah.
right? So that the things which I learned at that time, I am getting benefited from those things even today. I have
Hmm.
my own website. It was challenging for me. I thought whether I will be able to do it or not. But then,
Yeah.
you feel that you have learned this in earlier years. Why can't you do it right now? So the things which you have learned before,
Yeah.
it will always give you some of the other confidence, and that will always help you. Nothing goes waste. आपने जो भी पहले किया है, it always help you in.
वो कहीं ना कहीं रिफ्लेक्ट होता है एंड यू विल ऑलवेज यूटिलाइज एंड यू कैन डिपेंड अपॉन दो स्किल्स.
Exactly. Nowadays, if I'm only doing the art, now if you want to get into the social media platforms and all these things, so
Yeah.
you need the technology as well. So
Yeah.
everything goes hand in hand. So you have to be like I'm doing everything on my own. I have not kept anybody else to handle my social media accounts and all. So now I feel that that is what I've studied long back. It is helping me somewhere.
Yeah, perfect. Beautifully answered. Okay, if you could go back and talk to your 25-year-old self, what would you say today?
Mm, I would. What will I say? Oh, okay. So I will say only one thing: relax. You're not behind,
Okay, perfect. This is such a good answer.
and because every stage has their own challenges and all. I think you should not compare yourself with others, and you should just focus on your growth and your inner self. Like,
Yeah. Enhance yourself and just enjoy the journey.
yes, enjoy the journey. Yeah, fully.
Tell us what you want your legacy to be through clay and calligraphy.
Uh, my legacy would not be a art. Uh, it would not be any single art piece. I think
Hmm.
the people who will get into the creative field because they were coming to my studio or they are rediscovering themselves. So those people are my legacy, I would say. And when they will choose this space as their calling, or when the little children who are coming to me for the classes,
Yeah.
uh, when they see art as a major part of their life, growing, a major part of their growing. So I would say that is my legacy. It's not any uh, superficial thing.
Yeah. Now, I think almost an hour that we've been talking, and I've learned so many things from you. Also, hearing about your journey, essentially about the mindset that you hold, which is so powerful and so brilliant. I'm going to ask you, when people describe you, what do you hope they say about you?
That's a okay.
Deep question.
Yeah. Because I've never reflected back on this ever. But
Think
yes,
about it.
I would say I like to be recognized, not a very perfect person or a very extraordinary person, but a real person, I would say.
Yeah.
So like people know me the way that whatever I do it from heart, and there is no, there is like, but I just want them to remember me as a person who is real to herself, and
Brings joy in her work.
yeah, yeah.
All right, then we buckle up. We're taking you to a rapid fire, and you
Okay.
don't get the time to think. You have to quickly pick. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
All
Perfect.
right. First, stability or freedom?
Freedom.
Okay. Ink or clay?
Oh, I cannot choose one of them. So both.
You have to come on.
No, no, no,
Come
no.
on.
This is a very difficult one. Both of them are very near to my heart. I will choose both.
All right. Okay. Structure or flow?
Structure that allow flow.
Okay. One decision that changed everything.
Uh, to believe in myself.
Okay. Great. One fear you've outgrown.
The fear of judgment, I would say.
Beautiful. All right, rapid fire is done. Then we've come towards the last segment. Now, this show is called Unapologetic Me for a particular reason. So, if I have to ask, Tanvi, at this stage of your life, what are you the most unapologetic about? What would you say?
Mm. So, I would say that I'm not unapologetic about what I have chosen. I have chosen myself, my passion over the stability, as you have asked, and I'm very happy that I have did it, and I would love the people around me who are like me to take up like this.
Hmm. All right. Okay. Tanvi, tell me, how was the show and what did you like and did you enjoy the conversation?
The show was very beautiful because uh, I got to reflect myself, which I did after so many years, I think.
Okay, that was
And
the intent.
yeah, and this was beautifully curated, and it was such a flowy way that happened. Thank you so much for getting me into this, and I really, really loved it.
All right. I'm so glad that you enjoyed the conversation and we were able to condense it within an hour, making sure that we're good on time.
Mm.
With this, I'm going to close the episode.
Thank
What
you
I
so much.
appreciate about Tanvi's journey is this: she didn't reject practicality, she evolved beyond it. She didn't ignore fear, she moved with it. She didn't wait for guarantees, she built skill until confidence followed. If you're listening and you're in that in between space between safe and meaningful, let this be your reminder. It's not about choosing art, it's about choosing alignment. Tanvi, thank you for being so honest about your journey and not just sharing the highlights, but all the messy parts as well. This was Unapologetic Me. I'm your host, Ekta, and I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, live your life unapologetically. Thank you.
Thank you.